Alright guys, Hatchcon back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. More drama going down last night as the CDL Warzone tournaments continue, with Shotzzy and Biffle once again falling short in the finals to a familiar set of names. Lots of controversy over cheating allegations that occurred over a year ago, but also many other reasons why people aren't so happy, it seems, with the results of this tournament so far. Very much interested to hear your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Now, first of all, presumably later today, we're going to get the announcement on Heretics returning to the CDL. We believe, and I'm pretty sure it was announced actually quite some time ago now by Heretics, that they've got a big announcement coming for the 7th anniversary of their organisation. This is the old school logo here on the right hand side, this is their new logo on the left hand side, and you know, there's a lot of crossover in colours even back in their old logo compared to what the Florida Mutineers have today, and just general Miami branding for their teams such as the Miami Dolphins. We saw a little while ago now a potentially leaked logo that the Miami Heretics are going to come out with, and that's what we believe is going on. So tonight, I think, I guess 6 over here, maybe it's 6 in Spanish time, so I guess Central European time or whatever, that's when they might be confirming this. And Mutineers also, well, we might have seen the Mutineers logo for the final time, right, because they've changed everything here, and this is what their page currently looks like. So yes, more than likely the Mutineers branding dies today, or I guess it died yesterday because Mutineers took it out of there, all their stuff there, and yeah, Miami Heretics is the present rumour. Whether they will straight up away confirm their roster for next season, because there's been some rumours on that, or whether they'll leave that a little bit further down the line, because they have pretty much the pick of the Spanish players. Some of those players might not want to team with each other, even if they might be the best of the bunch, so that's a bit of a debate, but more than likely today we're going to see something further to this discussion. Now let's talk about hacking, baby, because every off-season this is one of the big talking points, and we're going to get into it again with this tournament here in a second. We also saw a few days ago this Freezy guy where, you know, Black Ops 3 Charles and Draza thought that he was cheating, and Dashi was kind of trolling TJ for actually playing with him, and TJ's like, no, I don't think this guy's cheating, this guy's just an absolute Black Ops 3 grinder, which was kind of my perspective on the matter, to be honest. But then last night we fast forward to this 20k Warzone tournament. If you guys aren't familiar with this, there are 5 tournaments totaling $150,000 in prize money that Activision have been putting on, and it's cool stuff in some respects. At least there's something going on, there's something to watch, there's something to talk about, there's some storylines emerging. Zuma, I believe, is primarily helping to put this on because they basically said, like, if you get the pros to actually play in this for the CDL Warzone thing, then we will give you the reins to host a kickoff tournament when the season actually, well, when the game releases, let's say, in November. So that's going to be a positive that might come out of this. But for now, a few of the CDL pros are playing it, many of the Warzone players are playing as well, and it was round 3 last night with $20,000 on the Warzone kill races once again. Then there's going to be a 4v4 hardpoint in a couple of days, and then the finale where there's 70k on the line, I think is actually meant to be CDL pros versus Warzone pros. Not exactly sure still how they're going to execute that, but last night was kind of just round 3 of 4 of the regular, you know, 20k tournaments they've been doing so far. So again, we had Shotzzy and Biffle were playing in this, Selim and Scummer were playing in this. In the end, it was Selim's team came 3rd, Shotzzy and Biffle's team came 2nd. There was also this pretty funny clip, I imagine, when Shotzzy was spectating Illy here. Illy maybe needs to up the sense a little bit because, yeah, unfortunate result here when this guy teabags him, was talking all sorts of trash, which I thought was really funny, to be fair. But yeah, Illy's team didn't make it as far as Shotzi's team did, and yeah, Shotzzy and Biffle, they made it all the way to the finals, but they went down to, you know, two familiar faces at this point, Shifty and Selly, who won the other one just, you know, a few days, pretty much a week ago, right? So this has been one of the key talking points as to, first of all, whether there's any, you know, from a competitive integrity perspective, whether there's anything dodgy, but also people were frustrated that, you know, they've won it again 2 in a row. People didn't expect Shifty and Selly to win the first one, and now they've won this one again. Some of the frustration is coming from the fact that it's meant to be, in theory, a CDL Pro and a Warzone Pro, right? And all the other teams are a CDL Pro and a Warzone Pro. Now, the CDL guys, they don't play Warzone really at all. Now, Selly also plays a lot of multiplayer. She was in the WXC, like, female Alley Cat League, basically. So she's been playing that. But she does have, I would say, more experience playing Warzone than a lot of the CDL guys. So that's when people are saying, well, is it really fair that we've got Shifty, a legit, well, maybe not legit, we'll get into that in a second, but, you know, an actual Warzone Pro, pro, and then you've got Selly, who seems to have more experience on the Warzone side than a lot of the CDL pros do, and it's like, well, it's meant to be a CDL, you could argue that there should have been a CDL pro in her spot, and therefore things would have been maybe fairer in some respects, but anyway, that's the argument that some have been making, and I get it, right, because they've won back-to-back now. People are like, is this, entirely justified and reasonable? But the other big talking point was on Shifty himself, because he's been a bit of a controversial character on the Warzone side. I don't follow that scene particularly closely, but I do seem to remember when there were cheating accusations going around his name. Now, you'd like to think that there's nothing dodgy from a competitive integrity perspective in this tournament, but you can't really know. It wouldn't be the first time Activision had given out money to some cheaters, and at the end of the day, there isn't really any controls on this stuff. If someone was to be sneaking on a bit of a wall hack or a radar hack or something like that. So this was actually back in March 2022, last year, where Shifty was accused of cheating. Now, the accusation here was that it was he was actually using like an aim lock, basically. So if we go forward to some of these clips, I mean, the guy that's kind of commenting on this says that given that he plays on 8/8 cents, apparently Shifty, some of the shots that he's hitting here seem a little bit unreasonably good. He was also mentioning this here, which doesn't look like anything special in real time, but when he slowed it down, you can see how he's kind of tracking, even when this player jumps that he's shooting at, he actually kind of tracks him through the jump. You guys can see right here, which is, it's interesting. Look, aim assist is strong nowadays, and I don't know if there's anything undeniably definitive in some of these clips that came out before, but, there's been some pretty formal accusations, shall we say, that Shifty was cheating. This is last year, right? But also we got Huskers at the time that said, after watching the entire ordeal around this player last night, I hope this convinces the public that he indeed was cheating previously. He might not be anymore, but, people say once a cheater, always a cheater, etc., etc. I personally knew it long ago when his insane clips first surfaced, but it's hard to convince casual eyes without substantial evidence. Nobody can go from having the best controller aim in the world to having the aim of a 2KD player due to nerves or any reasonable explanation. So maybe he's permanently banned from tourneys, because I'm pretty sure he was like, oh look, get me out to an event, I'll play on a neutral setup. And I think that he might have done, or he went to some sort of LAN at some point, and I think he did okay on these LANs or something like that anyway, but people generally said that he wasn't as good as he was online. So this is kind of like the nerves point, I suppose. So people aren't really sure if this guy's legit or not. I know he's been getting a lot of gas on the streams and the watch parties of this tournament, and I get it. And at the end of the day, Biffle, a couple of years ago, when he kind of came around and was playing in the CDL versus, when he was 1v1ing the CDL pros, he was getting a lot of gas as well, and people were like, oh, this Biffle guy must be dodgy, he's cheating. But I don't think he is personally. I think Biffle's just a good player, but he's also a pretty humble guy, it seems, Biffle, and that's maybe what's getting, people on the wrong side of Shifty on this one. And he also goes on to talk about the representation thing. So people were saying, well, should Selly be in this? Should it not be a CDL pro instead, if that's what it's meant to be? And then Shifty says, to all the people that were hating on female representation for women in the Alley Cat Female League in this Warzone tourney, then you're just a creature and salty that a girl, this being Selly, can not only compete at the level of other men, but even dominate against them. And, okay, sure. The funny thing to me is about this statement is that Shifty, if he wanted to, surely could say, hey, Selly, join me and we'll play in the Hardpoint tourney later this week, or play in the Search and Destroy tourney last week. But for those tourneys, Shifty's playing with other guys, is he not? I'm pretty sure that he's not getting her to come along as well. So he really thinks she's that good. Would he not just have her come along? I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I thought it was a little bit interesting. That Shifty's more than happy to play with Selly and for the Warzone stuff, but when it comes to Search and Destroy at Hardpoints, then he'd prefer to play with a couple of CDL pros and then one other Warzone pro that isn't going to be Selly as far as we understand right now. So anyway, that's pretty much the drama, but it's not going to go away yet because it continues. As we saw, the first tournament on this was basically a week ago, August the 16th. That was the Warzone 2v2 kill race that Shifty and Selly won, and then they've won it again a week later. Now, it wasn't, I think Shifty was in the finals, wasn't he, with like that team with Envoy and Tupac and those guys in the Search and Destroy. No Selly on that team, of course. That was August the 18th, and then again in 2 days' time, well, I guess tomorrow, it's back in business. Now, Shifty actually says, need one Warzone creator. My pros are a secret. So maybe he is going to play with Selly, and that's his CDL pro, because she's technically taken up that role in the Warzone side, but I don't really think that's going to be the case. And I know that some pros haven't really, like actual CDL pros, haven't been so keen to actually team with Shifty, just because there's been some thinking that, is this guy a little bit dodgy? People don't really tend to know. So, I don't know. There's been a few statements that have been made and comments and little tidbits that have kind of implied that people think there might be something going on here. But anyway, Crim's like, hey, I'm a Warzone pro, so I'm a Warzone creator, like, bring me in. So that would be exciting to see if that was to be the case. There are a couple of other teams that have been confirmed as well. This is one of them, which is going to be, I think, a pretty nice team again. So Rated is back in business, of course, as a Warzone creator or whatever for this upcoming tournament on the 25th. Cell, aBeZy, Scumman, and then Rated. So that's a nice team. 4v4 Hardpoint. There's also this team with got a Sugar Soaker, Almond, and then Simp and Ghosty teaming together. So yeah, with all that going on, you got to wonder who's left. Obviously, Shotzzy and Biffle are going to play together. I'm guessing they'll try and find two, but yeah, none of the two that we've just mentioned here. And it's always an interesting discussion on cheaters, right? Because let's not forget, Jimbo was, we don't really know how long he was hacking for, how frequently he did it, but he played with, you know, the likes of Doug and the likes of Classic and these other guys. You know, should they have known? Should they not have known? You know, maybe they should have done right. And obviously, if you're knowingly playing with the cheater, then, you know, that is cheating in and of itself, as Octane says. But it's tough to say whether people always really know about these things. So I don't know, it's off-season drama, it's always cheating related, and there's usually cheating drama throughout the season as well. Now, before we close out the video, I wanted to mention this from Awoba. So he's the guy behind the Awoba Bobs, who are pretty much the best Challengers team last season. With abuZa, Linz, Brezzy, and Cobra, two of those guys have now been picked up into the CDL. abuZa, I'm guessing Awoba, you know, got a buyout for abuZa onto Surge, and we think for Linz onto the Minnesota Rocker. So he goes through his expenses for the season in terms of like, you know, cost to actually get there for the players, house the players, and all this type of stuff. I thought it was really interesting to go through, and honestly, I think he's managed this significantly better than the majority of CDL teams manage their finances. So he goes through the expenses for all the events they went to, other expenses, and also player salaries. So he is paying them salaries as well, which is, I mean, look, when you're the best team in Challenges, you should think you'd get some sort of salary, and it's not anything crazy across obviously all the four players, but you know, without the salaries, he would be breaking even here. Not saying he shouldn't pay salaries, but I'm just saying that I think he's done a very respectable job. But then again, if you're a player at the top of tier 2, you'd think that you should be able to at least get by more than is the case for these organizations. So total expenses on the year was 23,000. He goes into like the winnings revenue and exactly what they did. 20% share of winnings, so obviously a lot of it went to the players and then the organization, and he took a little bit of it. So total loss was basically minus 10k. Total income, total expenses, and then it turned out to be this, which is, I think, honestly, all things considered, pretty good going, given the lack of support for the Challenger scene. Now, he will presumably make that money back, or even in addition to that, by the buyouts for the players, right? Because he's got them under contract, he can actually sell abuZa and Linz up to the Pro League, which probably means that, well, we don't really know what the buyout figures would have been, but still, that is the path to actually making any money. You could argue as well that, I mean, maybe if he got those guys to stream a bit more, they could bring in a couple of sponsorship deals. So I think there's a world in which he can actually run this at a break-even level, which would be incredibly impressive for a Challengers team, because as he mentions, as it stands, it's just not really worth it, right? I really want to continue to support the players in this ecosystem, but financially it makes no sense unless you manage to sell 2 players to the league each year, which just straight up isn't going to happen. We need support from the CDL, but it's all fallen on deaf ears. And this is the frustrating thing. You've got guys like this, knows what he's doing, been a great supporter of the Challenger scene, but he's saying like, I can't really do this anymore. The prize pool's getting reduced, Major 4 was cancelled with no replacements. That's a lot of money that just went missing. The line has to be drawn at some point. So he's basically saying, look, I can't really continue to support this any longer. It just doesn't make financial sense to do so. And this is the thing, if only there was a multi-billion-dollar company that was making a lot of money out of this esports game that could potentially help support their ecosystem. Well, shame that doesn't exist here. But this is the thing, right? Activision are, you know, they're making a lot of money from esports, and even if they're making a loss because they have to fund it, the benefits that they must get from a marketing perspective are mega, really. I mean, that's what esports is for a lot of these companies, is a marketing expense for selling skins and cosmetics, and also getting people to buy the game in the first place. That's a massive driver of revenue, I'm pretty sure, and you know, not much of that money goes back into tier 2, despite the fact that, oh, the second pillar of the CDL, the logo, you guys remember when the logo came out and they said, oh, this is the 3 pillars of the CDL, the pros, the community, and the Challengers. Is like, oh, well, where did that go? But you can see why teams don't want to support Challengers, because it just doesn't make any sense. And if the CDL came out and said, hey, like, you know, all the CDL teams mandated you have to have an academy roster, they'll be they're like, we ain't spending that money. Are you going to spend that money for us? But this is the issue, that if you don't have a good supported challenger scene, you don't find the talent of the future in the same way that you previously would. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting insight there into what's going on in Tier 2, how difficult it is to actually try and make any money at all, even if you're like the best challenger team in the entire world. So yeah, very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.